Hey everyone, welcome back to Rob's Car World. Today's top pick is a 1973 Camaro Z28, numbers matching, based in California, posted one day ago on Craigslist. Let's go check this car out. Found this car on Craigslist today. It's a 1973 Camaro Z28. The seller states that all numbers are matched. The car was repainted once. He bought it from the original owner. He's now the second owner. The car runs and drives perfectly, and the only issue is that the passenger side has been a little scratched. He does have a new door that he will need to be repainted if you want to fix it. I'm not sure if the door is included for $24,900, but it's worth the call. He states that the odometer is 63,000 miles, but it's actually 6,000 miles, so this car went around the clock already. I don't know how many times, but at least once. So those are the things you need to look into. But before we go any further, I just want to talk a little bit about the second generation Camaro Z28 in particular. This was a new generation Camaro that was inspired back. They started penning this car back in the late 60s. You know what the new second generation would look like. Camaro and the Firebird built at the same assembly plant. But you can see that some of the second generation design studies that they did carried over really nicely to the final execution, which looked like this. And I think this is one of the most beautiful cars that General Motors put out back then. And I just love the front bumper. Of course, the Z28 SS had the split bumpers that everybody is attracted to, but the solid bumper across the front fascia and the beautiful headlight lamps that look so pretty, how they just stand there, and the sloping nose. I think the car is beautiful, and you can see how that reflection is in the original design. So, you know, sometimes you have to take a step back and look at design and just say how wonderful this car is. And the reason that this car is mildly, very much collectible. 73 is not as much as 72s and 71s, but in 72, there was a big strike. The UAW plant in Norwood went on strike, and it lasted for 174 days. And they had like over 1,172 models that they had to scrap because in 73, the bumpers had to be reinforced, and they could not, modify the 72s to meet the 73 bumper standards. Now, even though the bumpers here in the photos don't look any different, they can withstand a 5-mile-an-hour impact with these bumperettes that they had shown here. So the split grills were not available anymore in 73 because of the bumper standards. And in 74, the bumper standards required, even more beefing. And that's when you had the aluminum bumpers that were added to the front and the back of the Camaros in 74. Not a bad design, in the 70s. Everybody was adapting to the bigger bumpers. But the 73, 72, the original renditions of these bumpers are the most attractive and most collectible too. So the 73 really was a carryover, so to speak, from 72, with the exception to beefing up, the bumper standards. They came out with a Type LT option, a model, and it was more of a luxury type option because everybody was getting a little bit concerned about, insurance costs and things like that. There was no longer a Super Sport package, and the 396 engine wasn't available anymore. And the only engine that they had was the top-rated engine was the 350 cubic inch engine, 5.7 liters, producing 245 horsepower, which was a little bit less than what the 72 model year was. So 1973 is not the most attractive year from a collectability point of view, but because it has all numbers matching and it's a Z28, and that these cars are increasingly becoming more and more valuable, this car caught my attention. So the headline in this car is negotiate, right? And that's what you want to do, negotiate something for yourself to buy this car correctly, because it isn't worth the $24,900 that he's asking. So let's dive into the photos real quick and see if we can tear it apart a little bit. The front fascia looks really nice. There's the hood stripes. It looks like this was a decent paint job. However, on some of the photos, I noticed some trimming had some paint overspray, so it might have been a paint job where not everything was disassembled. Some things were masked off with mastic tape and things like that. But we really can't judge too much on the paint in the photographs, but that's my takeaway. Not the best colors. The vinyl top, gee, if I repainted this car, I would not have left that vinyl top on. It would have come off. So I'm not sure if that's the original vinyl top on the car, if that was redone, but those are the things that you have to dive into. There's the larger spoiler back in 73. The rear fascia here, the lower valance here, looks like he had a ding in the bumper. You can see the bumper's a little bent here, and you can see the lower valance here has a little dent in it as well. And I believe there were bumperettes back here in 73 that this car is not showing. So those are the things you want to find out when you go look at the car. And this is the damage on the right side that he's talking about in the ad. I wouldn't pay much attention to this grasp handle because these grasp handles always were crooked. Even if they were aligned properly, they end up getting loose. But I would look at the lower stripe here. The body side protection molding here did its job. It got dinged and put a dent in it. So it looks like it's more than just a scratch. It looks like there's a dent in this door. And then this photo is a little hard to gauge because he's got a car cover here that's showing a wavy type of reflection. But it looks to me that this was not a very expensive paint job when this car was repainted. And here on this window trim is where I can see a little bit of overspray on the rubber. So I'm thinking that this might not have been a very expensive repaint. And the application of this paint may not be the best. But I'll leave it at that. You have to see this car in person to judge more on the paint work. There's the clock. There's the interior. In 73, the gear selector on the automatic transmission became the same selector as the Pontiac. If you recall, in 72, the Camaro automatic gear selector was this U-shaped mechanism, but they did away with that in 73 and probably save a little money as well. The car's got air conditioning. Of course, can't assume it's working, but the seats and the trim here looks nice. The door striking area looks nice. So the seats look to be, nice condition. The dashboard looks nice as well. So maybe this car has been garaged a lot of its years. So yeah, like the interior. This radiator shroud shows me a little bit of rust, surface rust. He took this photo to show us this original label, but he's also disclosing that the car's got surface rust. So for $24,009, this is not what you really want to see. And then when you look at the engine bay, it is somewhat original. And my story, I try to get stories out of a photograph. So here's my story. My story, this car was sitting in the garage for a while. He took it out, and all of a sudden his master cylinder didn't work that well, so he replaced the master cylinder. But it still has the dust on the car from sitting around. So now he wants to sell it, so he's doing things like a master cylinder. This low restriction air cleaner, I love seeing this. This was so cool back in the 70s. It's really nice to see that he has that. It's actually not anybody wants these anymore, but I like them because it was a big deal back then to have it. The valve covers are not original and things like that. But there's your air conditioning. I doubt it's working because, like anything else, you'd dive into things like that. It might be, but that would be cool if it was. The engine bay looks fairly decent. But again, not a perfect car, in any way. But definitely a driver. You can probably get this car to be a driver, like no problem at all. So where are we on the price on this car? So $24,900. If you go on Bring a Trailer, do some research like I did before I started this video, you'll find that there are exceptionally nice examples in automatic for like $30,000, $28,000, $29,000 that are in better condition than this car. All right. So when you think about this car being numbers matching, you think about this car being on the negative side, automatic transmission, and the work that needs to be done to put the door in on the passenger side, you probably won't be able to just, spot the door in if this paint work is over 20 years old. So you're talking a refinishing of the total car. And to do a repaint on this car, you're going to talking over $10,000, depending on how much you can do on your own. So you want to be in on this car, I would think, anywhere under $18,000, $17,000. And that's just a guess because I'm not looking at this car in person. But that's where I would anticipate my offer be on something like this. So if you're local and you want to look at this car and you dive in, look at the car underneath, inspect the car, he's not going to get $24,900 from many people. He might if he puts it on Bring a Trailer tonight, right? But if you are interested in this car, you got to be prepared to negotiate on this car and see if you can take this car home for less money. But it is very attractive because it is a Z28 Camaro. It has the beautiful thin line bumpers that we all love. It has automatic transmission, which isn't the best. It's got a vinyl top and the colors are, but the car does need some attention. And you can actually take this car home, fix it up, and drive it as a daily just the way it is. And then when you get the money and get the time, you can put the money into it and have some fun with it. So, yeah, thanks very much for joining me today at Rob's Car World. If you like this channel, please subscribe. We're getting more and more subscribers. Once we get to 500, we can start doing a nice live Q&A where you can ask me any question about the car industry, about cars, and whatever you want to talk about. We can do that once a month, once a week, whatever you like. And so please subscribe to this channel. That helps a lot. Please give a thumbs up and pass along with people that like cars. I'll leave this slide up so you can see where the car is located. If you do a search for Los Angeles Craigslist, you'll find this car there. It's a 73 Z28 Camaro. That's the Craigslist number of the car, item number when they advertise it. But just do a search on Los Angeles for Craigslist for a 73 Z28 and this car will come flying at you. This is Rob Lowe Freest. Thanks for joining us on Rob's Car World today. We'll see you here.